A coach recently reached out to me with this question, looking for mental coaching help. I've got a fresh team and these girls get in their heads so fast, and I'm at a loss as to what to say to help them get over their mistakes. What do you tell your girls to help? I will take any and all advice. And I love this question because it's so honest. We've all been there, right? Like we're playing a game and they just get in their heads and then it's a spiral from there. And she's not asking, how do I motivate them or what speech should I give them? She's asking, what do I actually say? But here's the truth. It's not about what you say. It's about what you teach them to do. So if you have athletes who get in their heads fast and you're sort of at a loss, this video is for you. If I haven't met you, I'm Coach Bre. I am a head volleyball coach, have been for the past 14 years. I'm also a certified mental performance coach. And so I've been here, I've been there, and I get it. So let's talk through how we can actually help your athletes when they do get in their heads. And here's the thing. I want you to understand what is actually happening in your athlete's brain. It's important that you know some of the neuroscience behind this, because when they make a mistake out there and they don't really have the skills to recover, which is the situation that we're talking about. If they're in their heads and they can't get out of their heads, then they don't have the mental skill to recover in that moment. And what we typically do as coaches is we tell them things like shake it off, next play, move on. These are not bad things to say, but they're not actually helpful in that moment because they don't know how. They clearly don't know how to shake it off. They don't know how to move on to the next play because they're not doing it. Okay, so here's what's going on in their brain. There's a part of the brain called the amygdala that picks up and senses threat in our environment. And you're like, well, what do you mean by threat? Well, the thing about it is that when your athletes are in this situation where they're playing in front of a lot of people, in front of you, there's a scoreboard, like it matters, and then they make a mistake, that's a threat to their psychological safety. Psychological safety means, do I fit in this group? Do my teammates still like me? What's my coach gonna do? Like they're kind of worried about all that stuff. And so mistakes automatically signal a threat to that psychological safety. And their body then gets flooded with too much adrenaline. It starts to overthink. Their executive functioning kind of goes offline. That's why you're like, what are you doing out there? Like, this is a simple thing, and now you're making a silly little error. They are, quite frankly, dysregulated in that moment when you see them spiraling. And when they're spiraling like that, nothing you say in that moment is actually going to help them. They need a skill that they have practiced ahead of time to know how to get out of that situation. And you just yelling from the sideline, shake it off, next play. They're like, I'm trying, I don't know how. Okay. And so we have to be able to equip them ahead of time with some skills to be able to recognize when they're in a situation where they can come back fast, okay? I tell this to athletes. It's like a traffic light. Green is what we call flow state. That's a sports psychology term. We want your athletes to be in flow state for as much as possible, right? That's where they're not thinking very much. They're just doing their thing. They're out there playing, okay? Yellow is something happens, right? Like ref makes a bad call. A teammate says something that they didn't expect. They make a mistake. You say something to them and they're like kind of flustered. That's yellow. So they're like, okay. Red is they're spiraling. You typically have to pull them out of the match in a situation like that because they're so far in their heads that they can't get out and they're now making silly errors, and we've got to give them a break, okay? We typically see athletes go from green to red. That's how you encounter them out there, right? They're like, they were fine and now they're not, okay? We have to teach athletes the skill of recognizing when they get to yellow, okay? So they have to be aware of like common situations that throw them off. So what I do with my athletes is we workshop that a little bit. We ask them, or I ask them, what are situations that typically throw you off in a competition? Is it when a ref makes a bad call? Is it when you make a certain mistake? Is it when a coach says something to you that kind of throws you off because they yelled at you or something like that? What is it that typically throws you into yellow? Yellow is not so bad. We can come back from yellow. But if we don't have a skill to come back from yellow, then we're going to go to red. And that's when coach has to pull you out because you're too far in your head and we need to give you a break, okay? So we want athletes to recognize when they get to yellow, how to come back down to green. And what I teach them is a failure recovery system called the Snapback Routine. So every one of my athletes has their own custom Snapback routine. It's a combination of three things. One, breath to engage their parasympathetic nervous system, a reset word at the top of that breath, and then on their exhale, they're doing some sort of reset signal to help ground them in the present moment so that they can come back down to green, okay? So depending on what sport you coach, athletes have not that long to get over a mistake, right? In volleyball, we've got 15 seconds between rallies. In basketball, unless there's a timeout, it's pretty continuous. So athletes need to have a skill that allows them to come back from their mistakes in less time than their sport requires them. Okay, so the snapback routine, the breath, the reset word, the reset signal, all of that takes about 2 seconds to actually do. Now, if your sport that you coach is continuous and they don't have 2 seconds, just them saying their reset word to themselves is enough to help them kind of reset in the present moment and get back to what they're doing, get back to green rather than go to red, okay? So the snapback routine is custom to them. I don't know all of my athletes' reset words, but we now have a common language. I can say your reset word, or let's do your snapback routine. We call a timeout. We've got that common language. They have that skill and they've practiced it in practice, in lower stakes environments, in a timeout, in practice, during a water break. Things like that, so that they can actually use it in a competition. And in a competition, now you can say things like shake it off, and they actually have a skill to back that up. Okay. Now, if you want to learn more about how to teach the snapback routine to your players, head to my free training. It's at coachfreetraining.com. I break down that skill, plus a couple other mental training skills that I teach my team as well, that are just really easy to implement as a coach, but make a big difference in how they show up. So the snapback routine is one of them. So go ahead and go over to that training at the end of this, and that will help you understand kind of how we actually implement the snapback routine. Again, the breath, the reset word, and the reset signal. Okay. So that alone is going to actually be a game changer for you. So now they actually have a skill to come back after mistakes. Now, here's the thing that I was dealing with as a coach. They had some mental training skills. They had their snapback routine, but last season I was coaching this team of really nice, quiet girls. And so I was like, they knew how to come back from mistakes, but they wouldn't talk to each other, especially at the beginning of the season. We had a hard time communicating. And so if you're in that situation where you're like, some of these issues that we have when we're performing is because they're not talking to each other, or they're too nice, no one wants to be aggressive or go for the ball. I actually recorded a video all about this. If you are coaching a team right now of nice but quiet girls and you need to get them to talk, head over to the video that I recorded about this, because the skills that I teach in that video are what took that team at the beginning of the season from not talking, balls dropping, to state champions at the end of the season. If you would have told me we were going to be state champions at the end of that 2024 season, I would have been like, no, that's not happening. Okay. So I will see you over in that next video if that's your situation right now.